What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Event Masters. I am your host, Dylan Shinholzer. Today, I'm all by myself, so that means we're going to have some fun. Patrick's away on business or pleasure. He won't tell me which one. But nonetheless, this is episode 13 of Event Masters. I'm excited. We have another special guest. She's an international speaker, event expert, everything. I'm excited to chat with her. So with that being said, let's get into episode 13.
Welcome to the show, EventMASTERS. You need to listen to this if you want to throw bigger and better events. Learn how to monetize and land bigger racks. Yeah, this is where you can learn how to do that. EventMASTERs.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 13 of Event Masters. As I said, my name is Dylan Shinholzer, and I am your host of today. And I have no one, like I said, to point at wrong because Patrick's not here. So, like I said before, this is going to be fun. We're going to do things that he doesn't let me do. So with that being said, let's get some housekeeping out of the way, right? If I don't ask, like I said, if I don't ask, you don't do it. So Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, like, follow, subscribe. Okay, get it? Like, follow, subscribe. Keep it easy. Okay, and then go over to Spotify and Apple and download, review the podcast, all of that. Okay, please, for me, help a brother out. All right, so now that that's out of the way, I always try to get the boring stuff out of the way. Let's get into today's episode. So we have a good friend of mine. She was introduced to me through one of our other good friends, Michelle Nicole McNabb, who was a previous guest. And I had the pleasure of being on her podcast a few weeks ago. And every time I meet with her, we jammed, I think, literally for like an hour, the first meeting we had. It was supposed to be probably like a 20-minute meeting. We ended up talking for like an hour on all things events. We talked even a little real estate, event venues, publishing, magazines, podcasts, everything. And it was amazing. So I was like, hey, got to get you on the show. Okay. So a couple weeks go by and lo and behold, she's here. Okay. So without further ado, I want to actually introduce and bring up podcast host, magazine publisher, live event expert, everything. She's like a jack of all trades, actually a master of all trades, not even a jack of them. Okay. So with that being said, can we bring up Patty Farmer?
So good to be here. That was a great intro, by the way.
Was it? I didn't butcher it? Good. Nice. I like it. I like when I do my job well. So awesome. So once again, Patty, appreciate you being on here. I'm excited to have you. Like I said, you are a master of a lot of things, and I love that about you. And like I said, I think we really did talk for like an hour that day. So with that being said, I touched on it, but please give these people, before we get into the guts of today, who you are and how did you become Patty Farmer, the marketing and media strategist you are today.
Well, the first thing I really want to say is when you're saying, oh, master of all trades there, the reality really is I do one thing, marketing and media. That's the thing I do. I just do it in a bunch of different ways because that's how you monetize, right? Is you want people to say, oh my gosh, I see you everywhere. That's what you're going for, right? So there are ways to do it so that you leverage everything that you do. So that's where I come from. Those are my three favorite words: leverage, strategy, monetize. If you can do those three things and you can do them the right way to be effective, that's all you have to do. Everything else is fun. Like what you said when you were doing the lead in to come on the show, that we wanted to have fun. You have time to have fun, as long as you know how to do those three things.
I love it. I love it. So let's get into that. Let's break down some of your. Actually, let's just get this very practical for the folks today of how you've been able to build what you've been able to do and all the things you leverage, right? So it starts with Patty Farmer. So what would you say to someone like myself who's looking to leverage things and build that? You are an international speaker, right? How does someone get to that point first before we learn how to leverage? How do you get to that point?
Well, in my case, I did it in a week. But that doesn't mean everybody else can, right? So I did it in a week. Cool. But here's why, though. Because it's really about building your people, right? It's really all about, we're in the people business. I don't care what business you're in the relationship business, right? That is what we do. So I already had done that. I had the relationships. Once I made a decision that, oh, I'm going to have a magazine. Oh, I want to do this. Oh, I want to do this. Then it's just putting out the word to the people that I already have built relationships with. And so that's how I was able to leverage it so quickly, was because I'd already done the work. So if somebody hasn't done that yet, that should be something they're doing every single day, is building those. Most importantly, we want to make sure that you're building those relationships with the right people, not just people, but the right people. And I think that's where people get stuck. They think that they have to do all these things. Like, you don't even need to be on a podcast or any type of thing if the demographic is not who your people are. And that is something that people really do. They're like, oh, well, I'm doing it for exposure. No, broke people do things for exposure. And I don't know about you, but until my mortgage person says to me, oh, Patty, if you would like to pay your mortgage payment this month with exposure, we'll take that. Then that's not why we do it.
That's the greatest thing I've ever heard. Broke. Clip that out. I'm talking to the Mitch back in the day, back in the back. That was amazing. Sorry, that threw me off. Exposures for broke people. I love it. That's super.
I'm gonna get backlash for that. I know I'm gonna get backlash.
I'm clipping that out and I'm putting it on a t-shirt. Because you're 100% right, but that's a whole side topic. So let me bring this back to normal. Good God, I want that on a shirt. So with that being said, they've built the right relationships. They're getting on. How did you transition those relationships though to getting on stages? And then we'll segue into how you've been able to cultivate stages into monetization.
Absolutely.
But how did you take relationship? Because go back for the folks listening. Go back to last week's episode. We talked all about how to build relationships. That's what Patty's referring to right here, right now. Okay, those building the relationship foundational moments. Now we've done that. What's next, Patty?
The next thing is making sure that what is it that you're an expert at? Because everybody, like you could just sell vitamins and, oh, I'm a health and wellness expert, right? Not necessarily true, right? You may be an expert, but what I'm saying is that you want to become the authority, not just an expert, an authority. And becoming an authority means that not only are you an expert, but you are able to influence people and specifically influence them into a purchasing decision. And so one of the things that I think it's hard for people to understand, and I really feel like it is super important, especially at this stage that you're asking me about, is that people need to know people don't hire speakers. People don't ask speakers or they don't ask experts to come on their podcasts. They ask subject matter experts. We don't just go out and say, oh, you know what, I want to hire a speaker. No, we want to hire a subject matter expert who speaks. Those two things are not exactly the same. So the question here is, what are you a subject matter expert at? And if you don't know and you're trying to do 50,000 things, which is why for me, I'm a subject matter expert on marketing and media, right? I'm an authority on that. If that's what you need to monetize your business, that's why my magazine, my podcast, everything's called Marketing, Media, and Money, right? Because it's always about what's the result? What are you an expert at? And then what's the result that somebody's going to get if they hire you? Because they don't care about you. Do you think anybody cares that, oh, I'm a this, I'm a this, I'm a this, I'm a that? They could care less. What they really want to know is, that's really great, Patty, but what are you going to do for me? Like, if I pay you, what are the results I am going to get? And so that's why that is so important to make sure you do that first.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. You need to figure out what you're good at, what your skill is. Like, your marketing and media and money, I'm events. That's what I got. That's all I got. That's all I try to talk about, right? And so I'm right there with you. I position myself as that event expert, and then I go out to other publications, podcasts, things like that to leverage that. That's why I'm getting booked on shows and podcasts. It's why you had me on yours and why I'm having you on ours. Because, right, the expertness, there's years of experience behind that. So
if somebody said to you, Dylan, we would love for you to come speak on our podcast. We have 25,000 people. I'm in construction. We have all kinds of plumbers and electricians. Just because they had all those people doesn't mean that's the right podcast for you, right? You want to make sure that you're in front of the right people. So it's not just people, but you're in front of the right people. And are you building relationships with those right people? And so you need to make sure, what do you have to give, right? Because it's always about what do you have to give, because ultimately, you can't ask anybody to invest in you if you're not willing to invest in you. So if you haven't done what you need to do to make sure that you're investable, so to speak, right? Why would somebody want to invest in time with you? I remember one time somebody said to me, I was at the front of the room and I was speaking and I was talking, and somebody said to me, oh, well, what is the minimum it costs to hire you? And I told them, right? And because they put me on the spot in front of everybody. So I told them, and they said, well, what would we get for that amount to make it be that? It wouldn't matter what I said, it would be worth that minimum. Like I could just open my mouth and talk to you for 10 minutes and it's worth that. Because I only speak about the things that I know that I'm an expert on, and I know it brings value to somebody else's life. I don't just, and to their business, right? I don't just talk to hear myself talk, right? I talk because I want to help them monetize their business. There's two things that I care about. One, that I help them to monetize their business, and I want to show them how to leverage so they can do that. And I want to show them how to design the lifestyle they want to live, and then help them to build a business that supports that lifestyle, not the other way around. Because you can have a business and it can own you, or you can own it. So that's the CEO mindset for sure.
Yeah, no, I definitely am a big believer in the whole work on your business instead of in it. Don't build lifestyle businesses is what I do all day, every day. So I'm with you, and it's important. So let's now go into the step 3, right? We've built the relationships, we've built the expert positioning. We're getting asked to speak on podcasts and stages and things like that. How does one then go on to do what we both love? Which is actually kind of monetize that, because I can speak on podcasts all day and it's like, well, I'm not getting paid to do this. So how do I make money? How does all this expert positioning actually make me money?
Well, I think the first thing there is because you know what your expertise is. And if you know who the audience is, now what you need to do is think about what is the money thing? Like, what's the money thing ultimately that you want the people to do in that journey, right? Because nobody's going to listen to a podcast and say, oh my gosh, they were amazing. Let me write you a check for $10,000. That's probably not going to happen. I wish it did. I know, right?
I'm quitting doing the podcast. We're going to shut it
right?
off. I was really waiting for that payday.
Right. But if you know what that thing is, we'll just use $10,000 because that's the number I threw out. But so say ultimately that's the thing, right? You have this program for $10,000 and you're an expert and you have these results that they will get, and you're talking in front of people who actually want those results. Well, now what you have to do is you have to look at that and reverse engineer it, right? You have to say, okay, well, this is what I have for $10,000 and they need it, but I haven't built the know, like, trust yet. Like they don't really know me well enough to cough up $10,000. So what would I need to do before that? And maybe that's something for $5,000. And maybe before that, it's something for $1,297. And maybe before that, it's something for $500. And then maybe it's something for free. When you're on that podcast, it all starts with free, right? Let them taste you a little bit. But here's what I find that people tend to want to do. What they want to do is they don't want to give away anything for free. That's a value. They just want to kind of tease, and they say, oh, I have this 15-page, ebook that the first 3 pages talks about them, and the last page is their bio, and they got these big, huge images, and probably everything that was of value they could have put on 1 page, right? And so, totally. Think about that. Like, all that's going to do is have them go, oh, well, a lot of this was fluff. Like, why would I do that? So if you want them to go to the next step, start with the first step that they actually build with you and say, wow, this is like some great content right here. And if this is what I'm getting for free, what would I get if I wrote her a check? Right. And so now they're thinking, oh, what's the next thing? And that they may not go to the very next thing for $500. They may say, oh, no, man, I've seen her everywhere else, too. I'm going to go straight to the $5,000 one. Right. And so some people will go A to B, some will go A to D, right, at different levels. But the thing is, make sure you have something at every one of those that is always value based on what is in it for them, because that's the only radio channel they listen to, right? What's in it for me? And make sure that you do that. And if you do, it always starts with free. Yeah, and then it can make you money.
I love it. No, I love it. What you just described is like my favorite thing on this planet, which is just a sales funnel and taking someone from free down to your highest level, whether it be your mastermind community or your big course or your yearly acceleration program, whatever it is, right? But what you kind of laid out is build relationships, build expertise, and then build products to help you. That's how you monetize this exposure, right? It's not the exposure that pays the bills; it's the products that
That's right. But here's the thing of here's how I did it in the beginning and how I help my clients if they don't have all these things. So here's what I like to say. Think about what it is you're an expert at. And then you need to think about, well, if these are the people that I am an expert at and I can help them, is there something they may need first? So I can help people with branding, but I don't really want to, I can't be all things to everyone, right? So I work with a lot. And when they work with me, a lot of times they need a website. I don't do websites either, right? Maybe sometimes they're going to say to me, you know what? I need copy. I don't like to write copy. We're having a storm here, so I know I'm going in and out a little bit.
No, you're fine. Yeah, you're fine.
Okay,
you're fine.
Cool. So here's the thing you have to ask yourself. Could I go to those people, right? The question you need to ask yourself is, if somebody isn't saying yes to me, what else could be the reason? And maybe the reason is like a couple of things I just said. Like sometimes for me, people will say to me, oh, Patty, like this sounds amazing, but I just can't write copy. Like I'm just not very good at copy. Or, oh, I'm going to need this. So here's what I've done. You can refer them. I do that too. I have referral relationships with people as well. But here's how I did it in the beginning that really got me those referral people. So here's a ninja trick. So I hope people are writing it down. So here's what I want to say. So think about how many people you know that are out there doing free consultations, right? They're like, oh, yes, let's get on a call. And they call it a discovery call, a breakthrough session, whatever their word is. They want to say clarity session, whatever. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Don't get me wrong, but you're asking me how to monetize, right? So that's a different question. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. So what if, so here's how I did it first. So I thought about, I'll just use those three people I said, a branding person, a copy person, and a website person. So now when people say to me, you know what, Patty, I really love that. And I said, well, you know what about this? What about, because I know that you are going to need those things, that when you hire me, it includes a 2-hour session with a branding expert, a 2-hour session with a copywriter, and a 2-hour session with a website person, because I'm going to work with them on strategy so that I know I can help market you. Now, here's what I did. Then I went to all those three people in this example and said, listen, I know you probably do free consults. How would you feel if I added you to my packages and said they were going to get 2 hours with you and I paid you $500? That's $250 an hour. You're doing free consults right now. So what if I paid you $500? I'm going to add that to my package, right? So I'm not really paying them. They're paying them, right? But now they get those 2 hours, and I tell them, yes, maybe after they do that, they're going to say, you know what, you wrote great copy. That was really great. I think I'm going to hire you. But maybe they won't. But if they don't, you still made $500, $250 an hour for something that used to get on consults for free.
Yeah.
So now what I've done is I've helped my partners make money to do the thing that they do for free. And then I say to them, well, how do you what, let's do this together. What about if everybody you do copy say, oh, you know what, I have really great copy. What if I added in a 2-hour package for you to talk to a marketing expert and a media expert who could help you? And then she pays me $500, right? So when you're thinking about that, now you're bringing in those people, but you're not asking them to do it for free, right? They're actually going to get paid to do it, that they may be able to get people to level up or not. But here's the biggest thing. Those are the things that you need to know and pay attention to. What are the things that are stopping people from hiring you? If somebody says, oh, Patty, I would really love to do it, but I'm not very good at copy, that's a reason. Let's take that objection out of the way. So when you start hearing the same objections, those are the people you should be going out building relationships with first.
True.
So now you have those relationships. So when people throw up those objections, you can say, oh, well, that's no problem. I'm just going to throw in for you like a 2-hour session with them. We'll make sure we come in so that we can work together and make sure we get that strategy down for you. Would that work for you?
I love it. I love it. So let's take it this way for a second. I'm that expert, right? How, in your opinion, I think this is a big debate in our event world and our personal branding world. What do you think, or which one is more powerful, right? As an event expert or a marketing media expert, which is more powerful to establish those relationships, build that brand, and monetize? Speaking on other people's stages or hosting your own events? I would love to hear your take on this, because I know you do both. So right. I want, let's maybe pluck down both. Where do you see the benefits of speaking on stages versus the benefits that you get when you host your big events and things like that?
Okay. So it's kind of a two-part question, so bear with me. So I'm going to say, if you don't have a lot of things to sell, if you're a motivational speaker and you're not a speak to sell, or you're not a business speaker, definitely hold your own events. Hands down, there's no discussion. If you are a speak to sell and you aren't yet at the point where you have products that you can go and speak, when you're first a speaker or you're first making money in the beginning, if the people in that audience are your exact people, and I'll give an example. There's somebody, I won't mention her name, but there was somebody, I used to go to her event and I would sponsor her event because every single person in that room was my ideal audience. And she was a big name. And that big name, what she sold was like $25,000. But because I didn't go there and try to rape her event, I paid her money to be a sponsor. I can't even tell you how many people hired me because I wasn't $25,000. So that was a great way in the beginning. I can't even tell you, at that event, one time I actually had 3 people hire me in the women's restroom, talking to me in the restroom. And they actually pulled out a credit card that I ran and they hired me because I have this little saying that I do when I'm at events, and literally it works for me all the time. But then to go to answer your question, it is always going to be better to do your own event if you have built that audience, right? Because I don't believe in the philosophy of butts in seats, right? I'm in marketing and media. I believe it's all about putting buyers in seats, right? Not having your friends all say, oh, you want me to come fill a seat for you? No, because every one of those seats has a dollar amount on it, right? I'm about monetizing. Now, with that said, I do want to have a caveat there that says not everything you do is to make money. Sometimes you do things to feed your soul because it makes you happy. But if you're doing something to generate revenue, that's what we're talking about. So what I'm going to say is, so I don't ever let anybody that's my friend or somebody that say, oh, Patty, do you want me to come and support you at that event? Nope. Every one of those seats has a dollar amount on it. And so I want my ideal buyers. And that I speak on that too, how to put buyers, not butts in seats, right? Because that's really important. And that's about marketing correctly. So I'm going to say, if you have nailed that, hands down, 100%, you should, for a couple reasons. Number one reason is the longer you stand on that stage, whether it's virtual or in person, has a dollar amount to it that you are able to give value and you can change it. So for example, if you're on somebody's stage for 20 minutes, you could probably sell something for $297, right? If you're on somebody's stage for an hour, that goes up exponentially. If you have your own event and you have a couple other speakers come in that support you, but you're the one doing the main thing, well, it's a lot easier to sell something for $20,000 because they're getting enough time with you to know, like, trust, and to see the value that you can bring. So if you have that expertise, if you have those people, if you have those products and services, and if you have the expertise that you can talk for multiple hours, it is always going to be better to have your own event. But I can show you how to make 6 figures every single time you attend somebody else's event and speak, though.
Well, I love that little hack of going to the girls' event and just being better and cheaper. I love that hack. That's a hack for
Well,
next
I
level
paid her
people.
though. And
Well,
she
yeah,
knew what I
absolutely.
did, so
Yeah,
she could have not let me be a
yeah.
sponsor.
That was her loss, because she could have been like, hey, no, we do the same thing. Why would I have you sponsor my event? But kudos to you for doing it. I think it's super smart, honestly. So yeah, I love that. And I'm with you. It's sponsoring and speaking at events is great. I think you hit the nail on the head. That's where you start. If you don't have an audience, go hack other people's, right? Go take their authority bias. And if you get to speak on their stage, well, then their attendees will automatically see you in a different light because of they see that person in a different light.
And that
right?
could be virtual, on a podcast.
Yeah,
I mean, all that same thing, if you follow that same rule. But then also, I know that you will agree, the speaking event, whether it's virtual, in person, podcast, whatever, that world is a lot smaller than people think. Mm-hmm. Yes, there's so many of them, but I mean, it is small in the fact of how we talk, right? So I have to tell you, the number one thing that gets me booked over and over and over and over and over again is because people know that I know how to promote it. Like they know that if I'm on their podcast, if I'm on their stage, if I'm on there, I'm not just getting on Facebook and going, oh, wow, I'm so honored to be on your stage. That's so great. Put my little graphic so you guys see my face. Like I do so many more things. I do it like what you were saying before we got on here to the people who are mine. I give them the assets that they need in order to be able to promote it. And I hear it over and over again. Patty, I've never had anybody promote me. And there's a couple little hacks that they can do really easy that people just don't think about in order to promote things. You want me to share?
Yeah, of course. As much actionable stuff as we can get.
So here's one of the things that people don't. Well, there's two. So I'm going to tell you two things. First thing, what you want is you want them to have a conversation with another person that says, you know what, you want to have Patty Farmer speak on yours. You know what she did for ours, right? That's what you want. So there's a couple ways that I do that I stand out from everybody else all the time. Although I keep sharing this hack, so maybe pretty soon I won't, because they won't give me credit to say that they learned it from me, but whatever. Anyway, so here it goes. So the first hack is when I'm done on somebody's show, I want them to be surprised the next day when they go to LinkedIn and found out that I gave them a LinkedIn recommendation. Yes, I did go review all their stuff, right? I should have already done it before I even was on, but I make sure that I give them a LinkedIn recommendation. If they're on, if they have a Facebook business page, I give them a 5-star review there. So everywhere I've given them reviews saying how great their show was and, you know, the great insights they had and how much I really, really enjoyed that. And then I share it to my people. So I do that for them. They're like, wow. Because usually what happens is when you speak on somebody else's, here's what most people do. Hey, I was on your podcast. Will you leave me a review? Or, oh, I spoke on your stage. Will you leave me a recommendation? Well, how about if you just start first and you leave one for them? And they're like, wow, nobody's ever done that. They probably will then leave one for you too, but it all starts with you. So that's the first thing.
Okay, I like that.
And the second thing that I do is, so say you're somebody's podcast, like what you just said, I was episode 13. So here's what's going to happen. I'll just tell you. So what's going to happen for me is after, you know, a week goes on, you know, a couple of weeks, now we're all promoting it, right? And now we've had you've done a few more. I always go back to everybody's episode page and say, oh, I was number 13. Okay, that's great. Now, because I only speak on things that I know have the same market as me is why I'm able to do this. I'll go back to the page and say, well, if I was 13, who's 11 and 12 and who's 14 and 15? Because they're right sandwiched around me. So then I go promote that episode. And then those people who are on that episode, they're like, I don't even know who Patty Farmer is, but they're going to come check me out. But not more importantly than that, every time somebody goes to 11, 12 or 14 and 15, where am I? 13, right? Sandwiched in between them. So it's like the best way you can promote yourself is to promote others. That's what I call op. When people talk about opportunities, op is other people's people. And the best way to get in front of other people's people is to do something for them first. So when people see that and they're like, wow, she was on this thing and she was promoting the other episodes. In my magazine, I tell the columnist to my magazine, how many times can you say on social media, please read my article, read my article, read my article? You can only say it so many times. There's 15 other people that write in the magazine. Why don't you talk about their great article and what they do? It's the same magazine. All roads lead back to the same magazine. So think about it. Get your eyes off yourself. Think about who are all those other people that now are going to be like, oh, wow, she promoted mine. I'm probably going to promote her episode.
This is like next level. I don't even you guys need to be taking notes. I promise you, because what we're going over is literally how to leverage events we're talking about leveraging events, but we're talking about how to get to the events and how to get on more stages to leverage more events, to monetize and sell more products. It's all going hand in hand together. I want you guys to make sure you're not glancing over and going, where's the event talk in this? Like, it is all event talk. All this goes into as influencer talk. And she can go on and I'm going to segue also and have her segue into running your own events and how that looks right after I think you have a thought. So I won't stop it. So go for it.
Well, I just want to say that, like, when I know that I'm going to be a speaker at an event, before we get into doing your own events, when I know that I'm going to be a speaker at an event, you always know who the other speakers are, right? You see the speaker page, right? Yeah. I connect with every single one of them before we get to that event. I'm already connecting with them on LinkedIn. I'm sharing their stuff. I'm doing all kinds of stuff because I want them, as soon as they get there, be like, man, you're Patty Farmer, right? You know, and they want to know who I am because I've been promoting them this whole time. right? Before. And so whenever I do promote them, guess what I'm doing? I'm promoting them who is another speaker. I'm so excited to be speaking with them on the stage of blah, 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 hosted by whatever. So I'm promoting that event person all the time too, that it's their event with all of these. And when people see that, guess what? Other speakers that are there, they do events too. And when they see how great that you were at promoting them when they were a speaker, don't you think that's going to get you booked on their stage? You're like, wow, this is what you did. And we were just speaking on the same stage. What would you do if I actually put you on my stage?
Exactly. No, that's why it's so the next level of what we're talking about here is, as I want people to not glance over this, because it's that powerful, being able to build these relationships to all get on more stages so that you can get yourself out there and then in turn have products and things to sell, to monetize, right? So let's transition to this, because I know you speak on a lot of stages internationally. You've dominated that and you make a lot of money on that side, but I know you also host your own events. Right. So the authority positioning, I think, in my personal opinion, like I'm looking at Michelle McNabb's comment right here, you don't have to be the host to leverage events. 1,000,000% agree. But I think I've even chatted with her about this, and I think me and you talked about it. I will always prefer to be the host. I just think that authority positioning that it gives me, and the power and the reach and the leverage and the my hands and everything is so powerful. So I want to touch on how you've been able to leverage doing your own events and how that looks for you.
So I want to touch on something you said too, is like one of the reasons, there's many reasons why you should do your own events. One of the reasons for me isn't necessarily about money, but it's very important to me, which is when you're on somebody else's stage and they said, oh, Patty, I want you to speak about this. You can go off a little bit, but you kind of have to talk about that because that's what they hired you for, was to speak on this area. When you do your own events and you have more time, as I'm engaging with the audience, a lot of the time I'll realize that this is what I'm talking about, but I can kind of tell from the questions and stuff that they really kind of need me to talk a little bit about this. And I could really serve them at a higher level. They don't know what I was going to say, right? You know, that I could serve them and I'm able to kind of tweak a little on the fly. I've been doing it for a long time. And so I can make sure that I am always of service by saying, you know, in my head, I may have been going to talk about this, but I can really see that this is where they really need me to serve. And I'm okay with doing that. You don't always get to do that when you're on somebody else's stage, but you do when you are on yours. The other thing that I think is really great about doing your own events is that you get to figure out how you're going to monetize it right from the beginning. As long as you're not one of those people who are doing events and thinking that they're going to monetize their event by ticket sales. Because I got to tell you, sometimes that can help you a little bit, but that's not really where you're going to make the money, right? So that just is just a way to offset costs. It's not actually an income producing thing. It just offsets your costs, which offsetting your costs also offsets your stress level, right? So,
let's not downplay.
So those things are important. I'm not saying they're not important, but when you get to do your own event, right? You get to choose who the speakers are. I mean, you get to really like, I don't want to say control it, but kind of, right? Oh, you know, you get to decide what is, you know, how is the value that you want to do? What's the experience that you want them to have? And I'm all about experiences. And now more than ever, where we're all like doing a lot of virtual, you have to be able to differentiate people. And when you're doing virtual events, because like I have to tell you, for me, that was like something I had to really step into, not doing virtual events, but getting the same monetization virtually as I did in person. Because when you're at an in-person event for 1, 2, or 3 days, they don't just see you at the event when you're on the stage. You're mingling. You know, some people call that networking. It is networking. I call it intentional networking for profit, right? You know, like how are you doing that? Virtually, there are more and more software out there, which I know we're going to talk about, that will allow you to do that. But being able to do that virtually, you have to be able to, this is what I say, and as a speaker, it's kind of funny to say this, but you have to be able to use your words, like your parents used to use your words, right? Because you don't have all the other ways, right? You know, the other body language and all the other things that you have to use your words in this little square that we're in. So I think that there's a lot of different things that you have to do there. But when you're thinking about monetizing, you have a lot of different ways when you're thinking about experiences. When you do your own events, it's really about strategy, pricing, and all these things. And when you're doing it at somebody else's event, they kind of control all that. You get to come in, serve, support. Hopefully you did your homework and you know who the demographic was, so you're actually using data. But see, that's the other thing. When you do your own event, you get data, right? You get data, and data and behaviors are important, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even something as simple as the software that you use for ticketing, which I know is another thing that we could talk about. Getting that data and asking the right questions when they are purchasing, you get to learn a lot. Do you think that when people say things like, which actually I know this is what people think, but it's not the truth. But a lot of times when you hear people say, oh, here's the people that are going to be at our thing, they're going to be in business for at least this long. They make at least this amount of money. Like, I know people think that people who put on events, we just pull that out of our air, right? You know, that's not true. If you use the right stuff, you do get data. And if you use the right data, and you can actually show that, more people are going to want to sponsor you. More speakers are event, right? Because you gave them the data that they need that shows them how can they monetize. And when you tell somebody you're going to do something and then they walk away and they 10x what they thought they were going to do, they're going to tell everybody and every other speaker and everybody about doing that, right? Whereas, how many times have you heard from somebody in an event, you didn't do your own work, and they said, oh yeah, this is what your sponsorship is, this is what you can expect to get back, and then you walked away going, that wasn't anywhere close. The amount of people in the room wasn't anywhere close. None of that. But that's positioning and knowing it's your job to leverage and monetize every single thing you do, not somebody else's.
I love that. And please, people, take away from what she just said, that little hack of data collection up top. I can promise you I've done that as well. And then that's how you get these business events that you see. Hey, we have the VP from Salesforce. We have the CEO from this. And then all of a sudden, when I'm going to the page and be like, wow, that attendee lineup, I'm trying to network. I'm trying to do business with all these people. I'm going, right? So it's a marketing hack. That's a marketing tool. That was amazing. I want to clip that out and use that. So this one's full of them. I like it. So that I'm a big believer in everything you just said. I'll just back it up. Just being that authority positioning, having the full control, you determine the outcome versus being reliant on someone else and things like that. Like, you control your own destiny. And then you also just get more authority positioning. I love hacking and sponsoring events and speaking at them and podcasts and stuff, but there's just a different level, and that's why everyone does ultimately end up producing their own events at the end of the day, because of the authority positioning and the expertise that you get. And you're right, I get more time to talk, and I can talk about whatever I want because it's my stage, and you can't tell me anything.
And I think there's a lot of reasons why people go to events, right? You know, I mean, I got to tell you, when I was first attending events before I became a speaker, it was all about the destination, right? It was like, where's it at? Because that's what I wanted to know. Oh, it's going to be in San Diego. Oh, absolutely. By the beach. Hands down, I want to go to that. If it was about a topic I wanted to know. It wasn't until after I was around a little while longer that I realized that it could be on the beach in San Diego, and they were going to keep me in that room to 10 o'clock at night, and I was never going to see that beach, right? Unless I stayed a few extra days. That I really realized that, think about those things. Like my event that's in New York, I build that time. And I know nobody's coming from Europe to go to New York during New York Fashion Week when I have my event and think they're not going to want to do things, right? So I build that time in to allow them to experience those things, which also builds in time for me to do things that I need to do to make that event so great. But there's a lot of different things that I have done that people have done takeaways and said, oh, wow, Patty, I've never seen anybody do that before. Oh, I've never experienced that before. And I think now with everything that's happened, we have the power to think bigger and differently than we have ever had before.
I love that. Yeah, 100%. I think now with the sitting people on me and your, we haven't done any events. We haven't been able to do events for our people or our clients in my case. And it's like, I have so many ideas coming out of this. And I think now is going to be the time. We have to push the envelope on creativity, experience, innovation, things like that. So yes, 100%. So,
and it's coming back. It's coming back.
Yeah.
I'm speaking in person this year so far 3 times in person.
I leave in a couple of days for Texas for a 1,000-person in-person event.
Where in Texas, my friend?
Dallas.
Oh, where I am.
You were on my radar to message. So But yeah, with that though, before I let you go, is there like, can you give me one or two of those things that people have come back to you and said, wow, I've never done that? Like, can I get some inside info? Can we give the people one example, maybe 2 examples? Putting you on the spot.
I mean, there's a lot of things now, like with swag and stuff like that. I mean, we've taken swag to a whole nother level now, right? I mean, like nobody does the whole, who cares if you're going to give me highlighters and pens and t-shirts and a hat and all that kind of stuff. Nobody cares about that stuff anymore, right? But man, like I just went to an event by Sage that they did an event. Man, my swag box was off the charts, right? I was super excited. One of the things that I think has really been fun that people have said, I think more people are doing it now, so it's probably not as new, but one of the things that people were saying when you do hybrid or virtual events is when you used to feed them when they were there, right? Now you just have Uber Eats or DoorDash or whatever deliver food to them. You give them gift cards for that. And now when it's on lunch break, you're still giving them lunch, right? And stuff, but they didn't have to pay for it and stuff. I mean, was really kind of cool. I thought that was really nice. People really, really loved it. You know what I loved about it? That when I'm taking care of my food, I don't have to think about all the people who have allergies and, and they can't have meat and, they can't have this. And I did that with coffee too. At my event in New York, in the lobby, they have the most amazing coffee shop at that place. And it's not a chain. And it is really, really beautiful. And I used to get, when I'd have coffee, I can't even tell you. First of all, for me, coffee's a deal breaker. Somebody's so cheap, they're not giving me coffee all day long. Like I'm not even going to that event. Like coffee is a deal breaker for me, right? Everybody has their own deal breakers, but that's a deal breaker for me. But I have to tell you, there's a couple things that I do for my people. One is every time they go on break, I'm giving them gift cards to go to that coffee shop because they sell journals and coffee. Not everybody drinks coffee. Some people want iced tea. Some people don't drink either, but they like a nice journal or a coffee mug. So I give them those. The other thing is every single person who comes to my event, when they walk in the door, I greet them at the door at my event and I hand them $100 bill, a crisp, brand new $100 bill at my door when they walk in. Because I know they're going to spend it there. They always spend it there.
I'm coming to your events.
Well, here's the thing. If they come, they want to be able to eat. You know what a lot of times events do? Remember this? They would say, oh, here's your deposit. You need to pay a $297 deposit. You're going to get it back when you come to the event, right? But guess what? They never give it to you when you get there. They give it to you like at the end because they want you to spend it, trade it in. They'll do all these things. But you know how many people go to events and they think they're getting it back when they first come there? And they're like, oh, I can go to this event and that $297 they're going to give me back, I'm going to be able to use to eat. I can't even tell you how many people have told me when I would go to events that they thought they were going to get to use that money to eat and they gave them a check on the last day and they were literally eating out of the gift shop like, pretzels and stuff because they counted on that money for food. So I really feel like it's time to get away from that and be more transparent, right? And really realize what do people need when they come to events and take care of them first, because as soon as you take care of those things, I don't care how good you are. If they're eating pretzels because they don't have cash with them right now, because they thought they were going to have that cash, they're not buying anything you're selling. And they think you lied and you have they have a really bad feeling for you, right? You know what I mean? So be transparent. Yeah. When they walk in my door, here's $100. I don't care if you use it to eat. I don't care if you use it. I know that the biggest proportion of them is going to use it to buy something, but that's okay. I didn't attach it to anything. I just gave them a crisp $100 bill handed by me as they walk in my door.
I like it. I'm coming to more of your events. Well, look, Patty, this has been amazing. I have greatly appreciated you taking time out of your day, hopping on here and just giving all of your expertise and wisdom and experience. And I know we're going to do some more stuff together. I definitely need to get you on one of our stages to talk about this kind of stuff. So with that being said, folks, we got to wrap this shindig up. Patty and I got to get back to work. So with that being said, a couple housekeeping things. Go ahead, like, follow, subscribe. I ask you guys again, go ahead and share this video out if you don't mind. This video there was a lot of things in here. We called it leveraging the mic, but I think we took this a few different ways, which I'm really glad we did because you have all of that knowledge. So we were able to, I think, bundle it up really well. And so with that being said, share the video. We'll put all of Patty's stuff down and below where you can find her, all of that, magazines. But Patty, real quick, where can they find you? Where do you spend most of your time? Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn?
Well, I spend most of my time LinkedIn.
Okay. So we will definitely focus on that. We'll get you everything. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow Patty as well. Okay, not just us. It's about her. She did all the talking today. I just reiterated things she said. So with that being said, once again, Patty, I appreciate it. And everybody watching this, make sure you go ahead, like, subscribe, follow, share. Boom shakalaka. We're out of here.
Bye-bye.